Hello, this is Taking the Biz, and if you've only just found us, this is a channel dedicated to A-level business students just like yourself. If you're a first-time watcher, definitely think about subscribing. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at a concept known as diseconomies of scale. Now, we know that economies of scale is the notion that as a business grows and expands, as it increases the scale of its operations and produces more units of output, each unit becomes on average cheaper to produce. Well, diseconomies of scale is the opposite phenomenon. Unfortunately for firms, economies of scale cannot continue indefinitely. A firm cannot continue to ever increase the scale of its operations and continue to experience falls in unit costs. Eventually, firms become so large, so bloated, so oversized that it actually begins to give rise to inefficiencies and mistakes. And these actually cause unit costs of production to begin rising again. And for your exam, you need to know some of the reasons why this phenomenon of diseconomies of scale might occur. So we'll jump in with the first of these and say that diseconomies of scale might occur because of problems with communication. As a business grows in size, it might find that it gets to a level where it has become so large that it begins to experience significant difficulties with communication. As the business grows and more layers are added to the hierarchy, as more positions of responsibility are added to the organization, as managers develop ever widening spans of control and are responsible for more members of the workforce, clarity can become lost, communication can become more challenging, misinterpretations of information can occur. It becomes more difficult for the business to put out the volume of communication that is required to keep the business functioning efficiently. So we find that decision making can become more hindered. We find that mistakes can be made because of miscommunication or a failure to understand messages, and consequently, productivity may suffer, efficiency may be damaged, and the cost of producing a unit of output may begin to increase again. A second reason for diseconomies of scale are associated with motivation. As the firm continues to grow, it may become so large that employees cease identifying as closely with the organisation that they work for. They may begin to feel a little bit less significant as they become a much smaller individual part of a very large organisation. Maybe they begin to feel more isolated, and this begins to give rise to feelings of dissatisfaction and demotivation, which we know can damage productivity. And as productivity begins to suffer, diseconomies of scale occur and unit costs begin to rise. The final reason for diseconomies of scale that we might be able to write about in exam answers are because of a lack of coordination. As businesses become much larger, supervision becomes much more difficult. In larger organizations, there may be many thousands or tens of thousands of workers that all require coordinating and supervising. There's a much greater pressure on logistics. There's much greater pressure on coordinating the operations of the organization. As firms get bigger, things become more challenging to coordinate, and it means that mistakes can be made. The firm may need to rely far more on delegation because the organization is too vast for a few people to be able to control. Now, perhaps the people who have responsibility delegated to them are not as effective as the people who are more senior in the organization. All of these things mean that coordination issues can occur in the business, that productivity can suffer, that mistakes are made, that inefficiency becomes more prevalent inside the business, and it causes the average unit cost of producing a product to to begin to rise again. So diseconomies of scale is the notion that economies of scale and falls in the average unit cost of production cannot continue indefinitely. Eventually, a business will reach a size where, because of either communication or motivation or coordination issues, mistakes begin to be made, inefficiencies begin to occur, cracks in the effectiveness of the organization begin to appear, and unit costs begin to creep back up again. So stay tuned for more Taking the Biz tutorials. We wish you every luck with your ongoing revision, and make sure that you keep on taking the biz.